Thank you, Jacqueline. Really appreciate you having us here. It's really an honor, and it's great to meet everybody on the phone. So, yeah, as mentioned, I'm Owen. Have background in a variety of different things. I also am a person with a disability, which has really informed a lot of my professional work following my graduation from Berkeley. So we'll go into a bit more about what we're focusing on today as a company. I just want to say thank you again, and maybe Todd, you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you everybody for your time. My name is Todd, and my background is in mechanical engineering and biomechanics, and specifically the design of exoskeletons, which, as you'll see, is pretty relevant to what we're building. But I like to say that, Owen really is the vision of ATDev, and then I turn the screwdrivers. So thank you all for your time, and would love to share some more about what we're doing.
Todd's being very humble. He does it. So yeah, really, starting the high level. I have a type of muscular dystrophy, so I'm, basically paralyzed from the neck down. And throughout my entire life, access to physical therapy has been an issue that I've experienced challenges with personally for a variety of different reasons. One being insurance coverage, and two also really the logistics of traveling to a physical office for what might only be an hour appointment. In my case, it takes quite a bit of time to get in and out of my wheelchair. So that hour is really narrowed down to 10 or 15 minutes of actual time with the physical therapist. So my joints are quite atrophied, and range of motion is very limited. That said, physical therapy is really important to me and something that I enjoy doing and want to feel, and I do feel better when I do it. So that's kind of framing the high level problem. And I've tried a variety of different things throughout my life to improve that. Training caregivers, that has its own set of problems. They're not trained physical therapists, so there are sometimes safety issues as well as simply compliance issues. So in the fall of 2019, I was asked to mentor a class at UC Berkeley, advanced designing for the human body, where I presented a challenge, which was access to physical therapy and a potential solution using robotics and what essentially is exoskeleton technology. So serendipitously at that time, I was looking for a roommate, and Todd had just been accepted to Berkeley for his master's program and came in, I think, the day before his classes were starting. And we met, we hit it off, and he started sleeping in the living room. Come to find out, he was in the same class that I was mentoring, and we, made it so that we were in the same project group, which is where we developed our first product, Rehab Robo. So I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen here, and we will take it from there. All right, so the name of our company is Assistive Technology Development, and we intentionally left the name very broad because our passion is for developing all types of assistive technology, things that make people's lives easier, and really we focus on user specific. So we want things that are comfortable for the end user and really inspired joy when being used. So this is a photo of me doing one of my film projects, and we like to start with this because it shows how excited we are about what we're doing. Our vision for Rehab Robo is to reimagine what the physical therapy experience can be for patients through robotics. And the way we do that is through a telehealth enabled exoskeleton. No, skip ahead here a bit. So this is an earlier an earlier revision of the device, and basically how it works, it's a device that patients will take home with them following knee replacement surgery that will be able to apply both resistive and assistive forces. So really mimicking what a physical therapist will do at an office, but at the patient's home. We also have, I mentioned telehealth integration. So that device will be connected and will be uploading data on how the patients are progressing through their episode of care, which will be transmitted to their clinicians. And as I mentioned, this was really, like Jacqueline said, initially an itch for my own scratch. I wanted to be able to do physical therapy at home and receive the same quality of care that I received in the office. So we went through the NSF, National Science Foundation Polycard program, where we conducted about 200 customer interviews and ultimately realized that there's a much larger need for physical therapy outside of the neuromuscular population, specifically in orthopedics. So we're starting with the knee, but we have a lot of plans to expand beyond that. And just kind of to tie it home here, we really view this as being a huge value add for patients and clinicians in rural areas like Alaska, where it isn't feasible for someone to go to a physical therapy clinic 3 times a week for whatever reasons that might be. So I see some questions here. I'd really love for this to be, an informal kind of conversation. I know maybe if people want to come off mute and maybe ask their questions, that'd be great.
Sure, this is Doug Franklin. I don't want to derail your presentation, which is awesome, but I was just curious how you fabbed the patient-specific interfaces.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do, and let me see if I have the slide here, but we basically provide a 3D scan of the patient's limb preoperatively, and then 3D print custom interfaces, custom grippers. The number one reason why braces aren't used at home right now consistently is compliance. And so what we do is we take a scan preoperatively of the patient's limb and then 3D print a user-specific interface that's then shipped home with the patient following their surgery.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One thing that I did not mention, and maybe you could both speak to, is that you have 2 exciting things going on. I did put it in the newsletter. You are taking a break from the Berkeley Skydeck Accelerator. So you've been accepted there, and then you have a pilot project going on in Colorado. So maybe speak to those 2 things for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are, let me share my screen again here. So yes, we are in Berkeley Skydeck program, which we're really excited about, and that's been providing a ton of value. Todd and I are actually in Los Angeles right now doing a technical accelerator. And so we've had a lot of really great progress on that side as well. But in this upcoming fall, we'll be running our very first pilot study with 30 patients at a surgical clinic in Colorado, which is where I live. And we've also received a $150,000 grant from the state of Colorado to explore this idea and what it might mean for people in rural areas of Colorado. So yeah, we're very excited about that. And that should be kicking off at the fall end of this year.
Well, we can have more questions if there's anybody else in the audience that would have some. I always have some, but if anybody else would like to unmute and ask a question.
Hi, my name's Elisa. I'm a pediatrician on Prince of Wales Island in Alaska. And I love everything telemedicine. I love all this innovation around new technologies for patients. I can give you an example of a patient of mine. So I refer down to Seattle Children's. It's a 90-minute flight from Ketchikan, but in order to get over to Ketchikan, it's a 3-hour ferry ride with a needed hotel stay. So huge travel commitment. But, when patients return from Seattle Children's and they need physical therapy, there are no physical therapists on the island, but they'll come back and the Seattle Children's note will say, we recommend physical therapy 3 times a week. And to impress upon people, I mean, it would literally be a full-time job to take a child over to Ketchikan where there are physical therapists, ferry there, ferry back, hotel stay to commit to that recommendation. And not that families don't want to do it, but they also do want to earn a living and stay alive. So I love all of the options that are available. And I applaud your work. It is very needed. And recently heard about, so I was filling out an application for something and it asked if I was rural or frontier. I didn't realize, I'd never found out the definition of frontier, but so I looked it up, and it's frontier medicine is when you're practicing in a land where there are less than 7 people per square mile. So I looked up how many people per square mile live on Prince Wales, and it's 1.5 people per square mile. So definitely frontier medicine, but it's fun and it's worth it. And the work that you're doing is very meaningful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing your story too. Another application that we've been exploring with this is, semi-related, and just for reference, I went to Children's Hospital, my whole life until I was about 21. And a real issue that I face, and a lot of people with neuromuscular conditions that are rare face is like you said, accessing physical therapy and not being on the other side of the country. So for the disease I have, spinal muscular atrophy, there's, maybe 10 to 20 physical therapists that specialize in that condition, and they're clustered on the coasts. And so if you live, anywhere else, chances are you won't be able to see that clinician without being able to, travel, as you said. And so we really are, intending to bring the ability to remotely monitor specialized patients to their home and really be comfortable in their own home. Again, there's also a lot of variation between, the day-to-day activity of people with, rare neuromuscular conditions like ALS or Duchenne's, and what you might measure every 6 months in the office might and often does not give an accurate representation of the progression of the disease. And now, thankfully, with new pharmaceutical interventions, the efficacy and potential slowing down of the atrophy. So that's really a really big focus of ours, and ultimately at the end of the day, we want this to be the best, safest, and most comfortable experience for the patient. And we believe that that is most effectively done at a patient's home.
I think I've been hearing from other physicians that sometimes meeting patients in their homes is really worthwhile. They're relaxed and they're just, you can look around, you can see kind of some obvious things about supports and things. So I think many of us will be looking for to continue with telemedicine in our homes. In fact, Alaska just passed a telehealth bill this last spring that made that possible. And I think that we'll be able to build on this with some other supports. As somebody who also traveled outside of Alaska to receive family services at Seattle Children's, I can tell you the whole state would benefit from having devices like what you have so that that travel wouldn't be an impediment. Can you tell us a little bit kind of as any pushback that you get from like physical therapists? I'm wondering if they're feeling, and maybe there might be some on the line, but if there's any physical therapists who might feel a little threatened from this and what their conversation with you have been.
Yeah, that's a great question. And our intention is not at all to infringe or replace physical therapists, because robots simply are not capable of doing a lot of physical therapists is able to do. What we want to do is enable physical therapists to 10x the amount of patients that they're able to see in a way that they're comfortable with. And that, that means different things to different physical therapists. That could mean, increasing the amount of patients that they see while remotely monitoring them, potentially working remotely. But really, a lot of innovation is possible, we believe, in the physical therapy space. And we really aim to bring some of these new developments in technology to enable physical therapists to be more effective and serve a larger population. But in no way do we intend to replace or diminish the role of the physical therapist.
I see Kai Holland has his hand up.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks. Let me see if I can get my camera turned on here. Maybe it works. Hey, thanks for the presentation. It's really eye-opening. I'm curious to kind of follow on to the question Jacqueline's asking that's maybe a little more well, I don't know if it's difficult for you, but from the standpoint of you probably thought this through, but one of the things that we run into in these rural locations is the lack of the number of specialists that can do the kind of occupational prescribing and work needed. And I'm wondering how you view this device being able to enable more technician or paraprofessionals to be able to expand the capacity in remote areas to provide the services that are needed when we don't have enough doctors and fully licensed medical professionals to do all this work. Is this a way to help more paraprofessionals and technicians be able to expand the resources available? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, thank you, Kai. That's a great question. Yes. The short answer is yes. In a lot of the literature research that we've done with the aging population, a lot of the baby boomers are getting older and having their knees replaced. There is a shortage of physical therapists, both in rural, frontier, and even in urban settings. There aren't enough physical therapists, and so we do view this as a way to, as you said, be able to see the patients that need to be seen, and we believe that a lot of this will be able to be done through telehealth by a trained physical therapist operating remotely and monitoring the progress of patients. So yeah, at the end of their episode of care, they'll send the device back, which will be able to be reused by another patient. Okay.
Wonderful. Now, Doug Franklin has a question. He'd like to know if you've worked with companies like Zimmer who do total knee replacements.
Yeah, do you want to take this one, Todd?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question, Doug. So we have been looking at some of their early stage programs, like Johnson & Johnson, who owns DePuy, has a J-Labs program for incubating early stage companies and things like that. We have, and then also have been looking at their corporate venture capital arms. So we've been pursuing sort of 50-50 path, both grant money as well as more traditional equity style investment. And so we really see the larger companies as potentially early stage partners or as later stage opportunities for us to scale, when we get early market adoption and then either sort of merge into one of those companies or partner with them to really expand distribution. We've had some early touch points, but at the moment are sort of still focused on our core product and getting these first pilots done to demonstrate traction and reliability of the system before the larger corporates, want to get really invested in the idea. But it's a great suggestion. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and to that point, something that we are really seeking help with right now is connecting with clinicians, both surgeons and physiotherapists, that would be able to provide a letter of interest on how this type of solution may be able to help their practice, whether that's being able to see patients that live in frontier areas remotely, or potentially physiotherapists that may be interested in seeing more patients.
Oh, and I love that you just did that, because I was about to wrap up with our one question, which is what can we do for you? And you've already said that. So thank you so much. There are so many well-connected and amazing people on this call that I'm sure many people will want to connect with you. Can you take a minute and just put any kind of contact information in the chat, just in case people haven't caught it? If anybody doesn't catch that, please reach out to me. I'd love to connect you to Owen and to Todd. And what I would ask is that you as a team, if you could just circle back with us and let us know how you're doing, like in 4 months or 6 months, especially after this accelerator and after the pilot project. I think we as a community really see a lot of value in what you're building, and we'd love to stay in touch. So we'll definitely connect and we'll follow up. Thank you all. I'll say one last call for final questions if anybody has any or comments.
I do.
Oh, yes, please.
Well, I just had it, and this is really off your primary presentation topic, but when Jacqueline was telling me about the work that you do and that you're kind of open-ended a little bit, I thought of a friend of mine, and he would have been here, but he had a conflict. He's going to watch the recording. For a lot of people who rely on hands-on care for daily needs, I got a friend who had to move out of his own home because he couldn't get staff to just help him use the bathroom when he needed it, or turn over in bed in the middle of the night. And I missed the first few minutes of your thing. So if you've talked about this, but I just wonder with the robotics, do you think down the road that this is going to become an option where we could have individual robotics that might help people with some of these physical care needs?
Yeah, that's a very great question, Kim. Thank you. So yes, absolutely. And that is something that Todd and I talk a lot about. We have a dream of doing what we call the 24-hour challenge, where someone that is fully paralyzed, what types of robotic assistance would they need to go 24 hours without any intervention from a caregiver? This is definitely a moonshot research project that we're not working on right now. But no, and that is part of the reason why we intentionally left the name of our company Assistive Technology Development vague, is because we want to do exactly what you said. We want to develop solutions, technological solutions that enable people with disabilities of all types to be able to live their best life independently.
Thank you,
Thank
Kim.
you.
Thank you, Kim. What a wonderful way to end this presentation. That would be truly amazing and something that we completely support you in your efforts. So please do stay in touch with us. I'm going to thank everyone who attended this wonderful presentation. Owen, Todd, it was fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'll be sharing the recording with as many people as possible, and we'll continue to connect you to the people I know who can support you as you move forward. As far as Health Tie goes, folks, the next time we are going to meet will actually be in person in Anchorage. So Todd, Owen, if you can make it here, we'd love to have you.
Okay.
Can't guarantee it'll be as nice as it is today, but that will be on August 11th. So in many ways, we're taking a break in August for these Zoom calls. We'll restart them in September, on September 8th, but I'll share all of that in our newsletter. Thank you all so much for coming today, and a huge round of applause for the ATDev team. Thank you, Owen, and thank you, Todd, for coming today.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Health Guides. Great to connect with everyone, and we look forward to chatting again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.